Rhyl, at the turn of the century, had all the trappings of a classy resort. Operas and musicals were held in the town's pier pavilion, but the beach was the major attraction, says the historian Phil Lloyd.
There were donkey rides, there was a photographic studio, there were, of course, there was bathing, with bathing machines drawn out to the water's edge so that people could disrobe in private and go into the sea. But of course it was gentlemen to the west of the high street and ladies to the east.
Rhyl's attractions before mass tourism in 1910 were captured by pioneering filmmakers and shown by Arthur Cheetham to visitors.
He started making his own films in Rhyl. The first one was Children on the Beach in Rhyl, and when he showed it in the town hall, the audience were amazed and gasped as they saw their own children on the screen. One of the main attractions on the beach in Rhyl at that time was E.H. Williams's Merry Men concert party. He took a double film, first of all, of a double dance by two of the company, and then I suppose, to those audiences at that time, the screamingly funny sketch, The School, where a schoolmaster was totally without any authority over the children, who ran all over the place and did all sorts of silly things.
Visitors also delighted in the Queen's Palace, with its grand dance floor, African village, and underground canal, as Jim Jones recalls.
These boatmen with the gondolas going through, and the colour was not even the water was blue like it is in Venice, you know. And there's a balcony all round, and people pay to look at it.
The burning of the Queen's Palace and the Pier Pavilion in the early years of the century were a blow. Rhyl could no longer compete with the Edwardian grandeur of Llandudno. By 1910, it was to embark on another course, mass tourism, with the development of Marine Lake Pleasureland by the pioneer of modern Rhyl, Albert Barnes, as his son-in-law Eric Hughes relates.
From then on, he constructed many of the rides. There was the figure-8 dipper. There was a ride called the Rapids, which was a huge slide. There was the bowl slide, which is another one where you came around a helter-skelter thing and finished up in a bowl. There were the bobby horses, of course, and one of the big attractions that came in was the miniature railway, and it was reckoned to be the finest miniature railway in the world, let alone in Great Britain.
Marine Lake, with its water chute, was a place of delight for holiday makers, Sunday school trips and day trippers, and also for the young children of the town, as Trevor Roberts recalls.
And there was a water chute. You come down on a boat into the lake. People, as they do today, shout out, scream as they're coming down.
In the Great War, Rhyl played a crucial role in the war effort. Albert Barnes turned his engineering genius to design modern concrete boats located in Zeebrugge harbour. A huge military camp was set up at Kinmel Bay to train soldiers for the front, and many were also billeted in the town. Young boys remember them before they departed for the killing fields.
I was 7 years of age, and like all the little kiddies in Rhyl, we used to chase after them, didn't we? It was paraded on the promenade, the bands were going, you know. It was great, really.
They were billeted next door and all along the street, and I had a photograph taken outside with these soldiers, and all were killed except one.
The war had a sad ending for Rhyl. In 1919, a serious mutiny broke out at Kinmel Camp when Canadian soldiers rioted because of delays in sending them back home. It caused great fear in Rhyl too.
Somebody came through the hall door, down 3 steps into the kitchen where I was, and said, "The Canadians are rioted, right, and they're coming into the Rhyl, you know."
They came to our house, like in High Street, and they shouted and threatened to knock the door down. And my father was worried, so he got us all upstairs, which was the best thing to do.
In the mutiny, several Canadians were killed and buried at the Marble Church in Bodalwyddan. It cast a deep shadow over Rhyl at the end of a cruel war for the town and its people. After the war came sunny Rhyl's golden age with all its attractions, even air shows. The first to fly across the Irish Sea, Vivian Hewitt, organised these, and there were also air trips from the beach.
The Shannon brothers took another film of Rhyl Flying Week, where you had Avro propeller, of course propeller-driven biplanes, taking off from the beach, giving people trips up over Kinmel Bay, back along the Vored Harbour, over the pier and beach, and back to land.
One young man then remembers a hair-raising flight.
My grandmother had won a prize to go in it, but she wouldn't go. So we went up in his plane. But you went strapped in. It was all right going up, but when you're going down, the earth was coming towards you. Oh.
There were also delights on the ground as Albert Barnes expanded the marine lake with new attractions and ingenious games.
And one of his big ones, which he made for all over the world under different names, a thing called the cakewalk, where you went up and the thing shuttered along. It wasn't a very enjoyable ride, but it was something new.
Rhyl was also the mecca for Sunday school trips from all over North Wales on buses and trains. The children loved their trip to the marine lake and its attractions, especially the wondrous magic of Pani, the Red Indian clairvoyant.
He used to tell people's fortunes by writing supposedly on a piece of paper which was quite blank, and then he put it into a globe that he had on a stand, which was, I believe, heated, and the effect was that the writing would appear by magic. And he was wonderfully dressed. He had a wonderful headdress, and he was known as Pani, because part of what he used to say to the globe was, "Pani on the water, mush, mush, mush," and the children all used to have this off, and they used to run around shouting this while he was doing his act, which wasn't very helpful.
In fact, Pani was a brummie, and there were other delights. Brooks Brothers took visitors in their posh white rose buses to visit the Welsh countryside. And on the long promenade, there were many attractions. A young Rhyl boy then, Wally Wright, remembers the many theatre acts there, like the comedian and concert artiste in shorts, Will Parkin.
Uncle Billy, we used to call him. He used to come on in shorts and a cap, and of course everybody knew him as Uncle Billy. And quite a good, concert party type of thing it was, really, and for Seaside Special. There was Billy Mander's Quintesques. Now that was very popular. They used to be booked out every night. He was a female impersonator, but very elegant, really. Come on in 1930s blonde wig and dress, of course, and he used to sing all the songs of the times.
There were also new forms of entertainment by the 30s. Rhyl boasted several high-class, luxurious cinemas, attracting large audiences, like the Regal, where Wally Wright was a projectionist.
Our Regal was very, very ornate. They had these silver columns each side of the stage, a curved stage, and two sets of curtains, of course, which all change colour, all the different colours of the rainbow.
Once a year, the people of Rhyl could reclaim the streets for themselves with their annual May Day Carnival, highlighted by the parade of their unique lifeboat, the Banana Boat.
You can see this boat being carried on its huge wheeled carriage and pulled by horses along the streets, along the promenade, down the beach, and then the horses make a huge half turn into the sea, and then the crew jump up and down, and off the boat slides into the water and is rowed away, and of course it was a rowing or sailing boat.
The crew came from one family, the Hugheses, as one family member recalls.
Of course, they all turned out with all the men with their huge life jackets around them. Of course, they were cork in those days. They were huge, most uncomfortable. How they managed when they got in the sea, I don't know. And then that would be on Lifeboat Day and on May Day.
The golden days ended with the Second World War. Rhyl had to cater for the soldiers returning from Dunkirk in 1940. Girls worked in the town laundry, and Amy Weatherspoon remembers the soldiers returning home.
Then we had to do all the laundry work. Oh, terrible. They were absolutely alive, you know, the shirts, even after they'd been washed. Terrible. We used to look forward to our Saturday nights, you know, out. Well, we used to go to the Queen's, you know, dance and meet up with different chaps.
There were also Yanks stationed in the town. They were after the local girls, but didn't always meet with success, as Elizabeth Smith recalls.
We didn't have a lot to do with the Americans. We used to speak to them in the dances and things like that. But there was a snack bar, was this side of the railroad bridge, and we used to call it Johnny's Snack Bar, and that's where all the Americans used to go. Looking for girls, I suppose. Well, they think they owned the town, didn't they, when they came here?
Rhyl's engineering expert Albert Barnes contributed again to another war effort with a device to protect tanks from mines.
One of these was a thing for destroying mines, with 2 arms and a drum on which chains were fastened, and as the tank went along, the mines were blown up in front of them. I actually saw these in use because I was in the 1st Armoured Division in North Africa, where our regiment had these.
Rhyl had endured another war, but with the coming of peace, was ready to take on again its mantle as the Blackpool of Wales. After the war, Rhyl by the 50s was in full swing. Visitors and day trippers flocked to the town, to the marine lake, and to attractions like the Alhambra Entertainment Centre.
The day visitors at that time, quite apart from staying visitors, were huge. We used to get so many coaches, you could hardly get them all onto the coach parks that we had available. The Alhambra, as it was known, was really built, and it was used for party catering. And you used to get as many as 1,000 people at a time in there.
Rhyl also drew big names to its theatres, and none were bigger stars than Laurel and Hardy, who visited the Queen's Theatre in 1952.
Up comes the limousines, and out comes the ladies first, their wives, and they came in. And of course, Mr. Wrench says, "Oh, I'm Harry Wrench, the manager of the Queen's, and this is our switchboard electrician, Wally Wright." So Oliver Hardy looked, and he said, "Ollie?" He said, "There's only got to be one Ollie in this outfit." So I said, no, Mr. Hardy. I said, "It's Wally." "Yes," he said, "I know that in a twinkly eye, you know." And he said, "I know." He said, "It's just my leg pulling."
Still popular was Ryl's homegrown Billy Manders and his famous troupe, the Quaintesques. One who came to Rhyl to join the troupe in the 50s was Gay Harris. She loved the town so much, she stayed.
I thought it was wonderful. Everything was so clean and sunny, and there was a big pavilion theatre with its big dome there. That was beautiful then, and the beautiful gardens. Then there was the skating rink, this enormous skating rink where they used to put on wonderful shows. There was the Queen's Theatre on the right-hand side, and all the beautiful hotels. Everything was beautiful.
Local-born stars also entertained packed houses with more classical fare. Flintshire-born Hollywood star Emlyn Williams came there with his famous one-man Dickens show, as theatre historian Bill Ellis remembers.
We had Emlyn Williams, who was born in Pinafore, and he came with his tour of Charles Dickens. He used to do the talk on Charles Dickens, and all he had on the stage was the Charles Dickens' desk. He was good, yes. I think he gave the audience an insight into Charles Dickens' books. People that hadn't read Dickens before, he coaxed them into reading Dickens and opening up a wonderful world of literature.
There were other famous Welsh stars too.
David Lloyd, yes, the Prince of Tenors. Yes, he was at the pavilion, and what he did, he'd pick somebody out of the audience and sing just to them. As though he was singing just for that one person, you know.
Rhyl's bread and butter was pop entertainment with its dancing halls, and by the 50s, rock and roll shows. Cosmopolitan Rhyl was in full swing. But at the same time in the town came a Welsh language renaissance.
Remarkably, in the 1950s, when it was a rip-roaring, rock-and-rolling, anglicised tourist town, it became, ironically, the centre of two major Welsh language events which shaped the new Wales. It was the first centre for the first ever Welsh medium secondary school at Glenclwyd. And in 1953, Dilys Cadwaladr was the first female poet to be crowned at the National Eisteddfod.
Rhyl in the 50s was the innovator in Welsh language education, with North Wales's first Welsh medium primary school and the first ever Welsh secondary school at Glenclwyd. David Timothy is a former pupil.
I would say it was absolutely crucial to the development of the language, not just in Rhyl, but it also snowballed and took off throughout the whole of Wales. We are in such an anglicised part of northeast Wales. It's amazing that Welsh medium education has virtually spawned from here.
But Rhyl's main provision was pop Anglo-American culture. It was to be the venue for up-and-coming rock bands. Pat Jones remembers one group who became world stars.
I can remember them, not as the Beatles, as the Quarrymen. And we were so excited that they should come to Rhyl, you know, and because they'd only just started then, and we were never seen a group like that, and we thought it was so wonderful, you know. And of course we'd all just learned to rock and roll, and we thought we were so great.
In the 60s, sunny Rhyl lived up to its name as a bustling, popular resort. It was also the glamour centre for bathing beauty contests, as girls vied to be crowned Miss Wales or Miss Sunny Rhyl. There were also rockers in Rhyl, and on bank holidays, mods and rockers invaded the town and had gang fights on the promenade, causing mayhem.
During the 60s, we'd get mods and rockers. During the 70s, we'd get skinheads, which would raise the hair on my head. And it would be a standing joke with us in Rhyl that during the summer months, there would hardly be a news bulletin over the weekend from Welsh News go by without the inevitable incident in Rhyl, you know.
But by the 70s, Rhyl was under threat from cheap continental holidays and the ever-growing out-of-town caravan sites, as tourist operator Ken Traherne observes.
There's so many of them, and they have all their own entertainment, so to keep the people there, and consequently we don't get so many in Rhyl, and the guest houses can't compete, which has made the parts of the West End look pretty bad, pretty sad.
In the 70s, foreign travel decimated the Rhyl economy, and it also lost many of its finest landmarks.
We had the lovely floral hall, and that went, of course. We had an open-air swimming pool, which was Olympic size, and that went. And the pier went, of course, and that was an item, the old pier was.
The Pavilion Theatre, of course, was another thing, because that was a landmark. It was a wonderful landmark. That was Rhyl. Whenever you saw a photograph of Rhyl, it was the Rhyl Pavilion.
But I was so sad. I can remember singing, and I believe the dome came down in one piece, and that's what they were worried about at the time. And I think in this day and age now, it would never be allowed to have been put down.
Rhyl responded to the decline of long-stay holidaymakers by trying to attract more day visitors with the building of the Sun Centre. It was popular, but didn't stop the decline in people staying in the town. Hotels were turned into flats, bringing in many newcomers with no jobs for them and resulting in social problems like drug trafficking, as community activist Colin Jones relates.
I know that in Rhyl West, where I live, there is a big drug problem because I see signs of it every day. So new residents came into the town at a time when employment opportunities were decreasing. And I think that probably was the beginning of some of the social problems we see today, because if you move into a town where there's no work, you're consigning yourself to poverty, and with the poverty comes social problems, and with the social problems perhaps comes crime, and with the crime goes the drugs and the general hopelessness of it.
Rhyl has changed so much. It's changed from being this happy seaside town that people come and spend a fortnight in to being a day tripper town. And it's sad because Rhyl's a lovely town. I love my town, I love it. And I feel very sad in a lot of ways.
Rhyl's decline hasn't been helped either by the costly and over-ambitious attempt by the old Rhyl Borough Council in the 90s to resurrect tourism with the much criticised children's village. To many, it's a scandal.
It is a scandal, and they should really have brought the man responsible for that to justice, because we're paying that, I don't know whether it was 7 or 8 million, was it? And we'll be paying that for many, many years. And what is it after all? It was supposed to be an entertainment thing for children. There's nothing there hardly for children.
I don't say I like it. I don't like it, because we used to be able to see the sea, which we can't see now. But I think it's there now, and we've got to live with it.
A recent Consumer magazine report states that Rhyl has abandoned hope. But local residents beg to differ and claim sunny Rhyl is alive and well.
I think of Rhyl as a toddler, and it's fallen over, and it will get up again. And it's got too many natural advantages ever to be defeated as a holiday resort. We've still got the natural advantages of the sea, miles of golden sand, healthy sea air, and a terrific climate, lovely clear skies and bags of sunshine. Sunny Rhyl isn't just a slogan, you see, it's a fact.
We've still got a lot of attractions to offer people, you know, that come for their day trips. And some people can't afford to come for a fortnight's holiday now. So that day trip means a lot to them children that come from the cities.
Hopefully, with Objective 1 money, it can develop the great affection that still remains for Rhyl, and develop its excellent entertainment facilities, and might face a future if it can develop an all-weather, all-season resort.
So just let me be beside the seaside. I'll be beside myself and play. And there's lots of love inside. I should like to be beside the sea.